Hello everybody. On a dark morning in early January 2025, Los Angeles awoke to the sound of sirens and the hum of helicopters cutting through the silence. A massive fire had struck the city, with flames quickly consuming buildings and homes. Without warning, many residents had to flee their homes, escaping from the flames that were closing in on them. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah, a young woman living in an apartment in downtown, woke up to screams and the acrid smell of smoke filling her room. Within minutes, the fire was dangerously close, engulfing everything around her. In a panic, Sarah rushed out of her apartment, carrying only the clothes she had on her back. Everything she owned, memories, moments, and dreams, was reduced to ashes in an instant. After running as far as she could, Sarah finally arrived at a temporary evacuation center set up by the government and various organizations. There, thousands of people gathered, bewildered and scared, their faces tired and full of anxiety. Some were crying, having lost their homes, families, and futures. But among the thousands, there was one group that stood out, people who spoke with a calmness and certainty that oddly comforted the anxious souls around them. The Muslim community in Los Angeles, which had long been active in various social causes, was among the first to lend a helping hand to the fire victims. They set up emergency tents, provided food and water, and most importantly, offered spiritual support. They didn't just offer physical protection, but also a place to talk, to ease the anxiety, and to seek something more than just temporary relief. Sarah didn't know why, but there was something in the woman she met at the evacuation center that made her feel at peace. The woman wore a hijab and spoke in a soft voice, offering Sarah a glass of water while speaking words of deep empathy. "We're here to help, whatever you need. Don't worry, everything will be okay." But what struck Sarah even more were the words that followed: "Sometimes, in the chaos and loss, we can find a path to true peace." Sarah didn't fully understand what that meant, but those words seemed to pierce her heart, making her want to learn more. Day by day, Sarah returned to the same shelter. She saw how the Muslim community wasn't only concerned with the physical injuries but also the wounded hearts. They spoke about patience, about how to face life's trials with the conviction that everything that happens is part of a greater fate. Sarah began talking more with them, listening to their stories, and even visiting local mosques. The more she delved into the teachings of Islam, the more she felt there was something profoundly different, something she had never encountered before. This wasn't just about religion, it was about living with purpose and peace, even when everything around you seemed to be burning. At the mosque, Sarah met Imam Rashid, a man known for his wisdom and serenity. After several meetings, Imam Rashid began teaching Sarah about the meaning of patience, how to find strength in adversity, and how Islam provides guidance for facing life's trials. Sarah felt as if a light was beginning to shine within her, something she had been searching for but didn't know where to find it. But there was one thing that still puzzled her. Why does Islam bring such peace so quickly? What makes these people so certain and calm, even though their world has burned down? Sarah asked during a conversation with Imam Rashid. Imam Rashid answered with a smile. Because Islam teaches us that nothing in this world is eternal except for Allah. Everything we have, everything we love, can be taken away at any time. But true peace comes when we surrender everything to Him and trust that every trial is an opportunity to draw closer to Him. Those words of Imam Rashid touched her in a way she never expected. She began to feel a new strength, not from material possessions, but from faith and peace within her heart. Sarah felt as if her life's journey was just beginning, and the fire that had destroyed everything had opened a path for her to discover something far more valuable, a peace greater than anything she had ever known. Little did Sarah know, this was just the beginning. Out there, among the thousands of other fire victims, many would soon begin to feel what she was feeling. Those who survived the fire, who had lost everything, were starting to rediscover themselves through the same teachings, a faith that not only provided guidance but also offered peace at every step. Days passed after the fire, and while Los Angeles slowly began to recover from the devastation, many people still felt trapped in the shadows of trauma. The fire had not only taken homes and possessions but had also caused a deep fracture in the hearts of those who survived. Although the city began to rebuild its infrastructure and the burned buildings, many felt as though they had lost their grip on life. Sarah found herself living in two different worlds. On one hand, she felt the overwhelming uncertainty, like when the fire had come so quickly, she realized she could control nothing in her life. But on the other hand, she felt a peace that couldn't be explained, a peace that had grown within her since she started learning about Islam. She continued to seek more knowledge, reading books, attending study groups at the mosque, and talking to other converts. One day, Sarah visited a relief center run by the Muslim community, which continued to help fire victims by providing spiritual and emotional support. There, she met several others who had gone through the same tragedy. They had all survived the same fire, and they all felt the same emptiness they had to fill. Among them, Sarah met John, a man in his 40s who had been living in Los Angeles for more than 2 decades. John had lost his family in the fire, and although he was physically alive, his heart felt shattered. He sat in the corner of the room, staring blankly ahead, his hands trembling as he held a cup of tea that had long gone cold. "Do you also feel like life lost its direction after everything that happened?" Sarah asked cautiously, approaching John, who looked incredibly downcast. John nodded slowly. "Yeah, I feel like I've lost everything. My family, my home, my memories. It all vanished in seconds. There's nothing left but this emptiness and confusion." Sarah looked at him with deep understanding. "I feel the same way. But there's something that's been making me feel calmer. A teaching that's helping me to be patient and accept everything that happens. Islam. I've been learning about it." John's eyes began to well up with tears, as if a glimmer of hope had started to appear once more. "Islam? I've heard of it, but I never really tried to understand it. What have you learned?" Sarah took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I've learned that life isn't always fair. But we can choose how we see and deal with it. Islam teaches us that everything we have in this world isn't ours to keep forever. Loss is part of life, and the most important thing is how we accept it and keep moving forward with hope." John fell silent, pondering her words. "I want to feel what you feel that peace you have. Maybe I've been too caught up in anger and sorrow." Sarah smiled softly. "That's why we're talking, to help each other. Islam doesn't just teach us about prayers and worship, it also teaches us how to keep our hearts clean and full of hope, even when the world around us is full of hardship." That conversation became a turning point for John. A few days later, he began attending Islamic study sessions at the mosque where Sarah had been learning. He found that there was something profoundly comforting in the teachings, a message about finding calm in the midst of life's trials. Like Sarah, John felt that in the midst of great loss, there was an opportunity to rediscover the true meaning of life. It wasn't just Sarah and John who were experiencing this shift. Among the other fire victims, more and more people began seeking out Islam. Those who had felt that their world had burned down were beginning to find something they could hold on to, something stronger than anything they had experienced. In the midst of the ashes and destruction, Islam offered a way out, giving them a sense of peace that grounded them. Imam Rashid, who had been helping the fire victims, saw the profound transformation occurring in this community. "Seeing those who once lost their way now rediscover the light in their hearts is nothing short of miraculous," he said with pride. "They came with wounds, but they leave with new hope and strength." One afternoon, as the sky over Los Angeles began to darken with the setting sun, Sarah and John sat in the mosque's courtyard, talking about the next steps in their lives. John, his voice soft but determined, said, "I don't know what's going to happen next, but I feel stronger now. I feel like I have a new purpose. I want to learn more and be part of this community." Sarah looked at John with a sense of joy at seeing his transformation. "I feel the same way. Our lives may have changed, but we can still make this life meaningful. We can share this peace with others who are also searching for something more." Out there, on the streets of Los Angeles, which was slowly being cleaned up from the aftermath of the fire, those who had survived the flames found new strength within themselves. With Islam as their foundation, they felt that nothing was impossible to rebuild, both physically and spiritually. They knew that their journey had only just begun, and that the fire that had destroyed everything was now opening a path to an even brighter light. Amidst the devastation, Los Angeles began to rediscover its soul, a soul more powerful, peaceful, and hopeful than ever before.